What's going on, YouTube family? Today we're going to be talking about how Toyota is about to lose millions of dollars and why it's actually a good thing. And on top of that, they might actually change the automotive industry. Toyota just made a major announcement recalling over 102,000 vehicles. Now, the models in question are a 2022 to 2023 Toyota Tundra and Lexus LX model. And the recall in question is they found debris inside the motor that is causing the cars to either knock prematurely, have a no start, loss of power, or even worse, loss of power during a high-speed acceleration, which could cause risk of crashing. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link down below so this way you guys can check out these reports. And I'm going to put NHTSA's website on there so you guys can go ahead and run your VIN number to see if your car qualifies. Now, Toyota's doing a good thing. They're actually replacing the whole motor. They're not repairing it, doing a bottom end rebuild or something else like that. They're going to go ahead and nip it in the butt. And the reason why I think they're doing this is because Toyota is known as a reliable brand. And this is something they really hang their hat on. This is what Toyota is known for. So the fact that they're stepping up so quickly and offering to repair over 102,000 vehicles is actually a good thing. And this is one of the things I think that's hopefully going to change the automotive industry. If you guys remember some of the recalls, like with the Hyundais, you know, they did a bottom end rebuild and they did a top end rebuild and they did an oil pump upgrade. And at the very end of the day, they winded up replacing, I think it was like over 30,000 motors, you know, and so they wasted tons of money basically chasing a problem instead of just going out and swapping out the motor. Now, the good thing is there's so many cars that are coming out now. I know Chevy, Honda, GM, Ford, all these companies are having problems with these engines, especially if you guys bought any of these new Broncos. I hear they have like all kinds of valve problems. This could be something where Toyota's putting the pressure on these manufacturers to hopefully replace those engines as well. Now, unfortunately, I do have some bad news. The fact that they said debris and it's affecting 102,000 vehicles just doesn't seem right. And I read a few reports of people talking about how they made new parts numbers for rod end caps and rod end bearings and a few other things like that. So maybe they have more issues than what they're leading on to believe. Like maybe there's a little bit of debris, yes, but they may have had a manufactured part that either is not up to spec, not holding out well, or just maybe a bad vendor, so they're replacing it with something new, which there's nothing wrong with that as long as they're stepping up forward and taking care of customers. Now, if your car is able for one of these recalls, my advice to you is take it in ASAP and get your name on the list. If you don't remember, when Hyundai and Kia did that recall of 30,000 motors, people waited up to a year to get their engines replaced. And so you had some people that their motors blew up and they were sitting on the sidelines for over a year waiting their turn in line to get their cars fixed. So even though your car is perfectly fine now, get your name on the list ASAP because you don't want to risk having these issues. Now, I know there's some people in the comment section going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to drive my car for 200,000 miles and then I'm going to take it in there and get a brand new motor. It's probably not going to work that way. More than likely, they're going to put some sort of mileage restriction or some sort of timeline on this actual recall. So only time will tell, but we have to see how it all unfolds out. Another thing that's going to be a major issue is the fact that this particular motor is used in multiple models when it comes to the Toyota lineup. It's used in their hybrid version of this vehicle. I know in the Toyota Sequoia and a few other cars. And so it makes me wonder if they're having issues with the naturally aspirated, why aren't they having issues with the actual turboed or hybrid edition vehicles? Now, I did get some reports that said that people are having problems, but it's not a large enough scale where Toyota is basically ringing the alarm and saying that these engines are bad. Now, a lot of these motors are all made in the exact same facilities here in the United States, so it may throw up some red flags that everything that came from there may be under that recall, but I think Toyota is going to slow play it and see where it's going to go. So, like I said, get your name on that list because there's, I think in the last 2 years, they sold 225,000 Toyota Tundras, and over 50% of those are being recalled right now. So just let that number sink in. If, let's say, the hybrid editions go up, that number jumps quite a bit. And so it's just going to keep getting worse. So make sure you put your name on the line. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about is how does this actually affect your vehicle value? Not only for dealers, regular people, but also rental car companies, because this is something none of these other YouTubers are going to talk about because they have no idea how it works. So unfortunately, if this is your car and you bought a car and you want to get rid of it, now now is the time. If you're thinking about selling your Tundra, just do it, just so you can get out of the way of it and get something else. Because what's going to happen is, now that this is starting to get worldwide recognition and people are talking about it on YouTube, little by little, you're going to start seeing the value of your vehicle drop quite significantly. I don't know if you guys remember the whole Volkswagen debacle where they had those bad diesel engines, and then also some of these Hyundais with the 2.0 and 2.4 liter four cylinders. Everybody knew that those particular cars were garbage and they had recalls on them, and so they absolutely plummeted in value when it came to auction prices. On top of that, I don't know if you guys knew this, but in some states, dealers are not allowed to sell cars unless they actually take care of all the safety recalls. So if this is listed under a critical recall or safety recall because the car shuts off during you driving at high speeds and could cause you to crash, they may be forced to fix that before they could sell that car. So every dealer that has one of these on their lot right now, thinking that, they got a great truck, now they have to figure out, how do I get rid of it? So they're going to take it to the auction, which is going to drive prices down even further. Or, they may sell it to you, but then, like I said, by law, they have to disclose it to you. So if you bought one of these cars in the last few days and they didn't tell you about it, definitely go back there and make sure you get some sort of compensation or something, because the wait for this motor is going to be long. Now, I've heard people had engine failures as low as 500 miles, and I've had people as high as 30,000 miles. So there's no real kind of range. I have some people right now, they're like, oh, it's still new, it's fine. We don't know when it's going to hit or when it's going to strike. So it's better to put your name on that list. Now, if you're a rental car company that has one of these vehicles, unfortunately, you're going to be in a bunch of trouble as well, because certain states, Turo will not let you rent a car if it has a recall. So I've already talked to people like Hertz, Enterprise, and stuff like that. They're taking their Tundras off the platform. But then if you have ones on Turo, you may have to take it down. And if it takes you months, if not a year, to get it fixed, that car can't make you money anymore. So you should probably look into getting rid of it as well. Or if you're okay with making that your daily driver and not having to worry about the recalls, that's something else you can look forward to. Now, one of the reasons why I think this is actually a good thing and how Toyota might change the automotive industry is the fact that, like I said, they are stepping up and actually replacing the engine, not Mickey Mousing it, not fixing it. And so doing this, like I said, will save their brand name and save their brand loyalty, and it will make a lot of other manufacturers look bad, because I know Ford is looking down a barrel of a gun with the with the Ford Bronco motor. Dodge has so many recalls. I won't even get into that. Theirs is astronomical. Honda has the turbo 4-cylinder from the Civic that's having multiple issues with less than 10,000 miles. They're talking about like a 3% failure rate. I don't know if that's true or not, but I see it all over like Reddit forums and stuff like that. People are really complaining because, they bought a Civic just like a Toyota. They're supposed to be bulletproof. You're not supposed to have any problems. But I guess these newer engines are just not as good as the older ones. So there's more recalls I'm sure they're going to be popping up. So I want to see if they're actually going to stand up and do what Toyota's doing and just start swapping out motors instead of Mickey Mousing things, changing a turbo, changing a head, maybe doing the bottom end work, something like that. Because at the end of the day, if you take care of your customers, I'm sure the brand loyalty will stay there. Also, what kind of warranties is this going to apply in the future? Because most people that got those Hyundai motors got an additional, I think it was 3 to 5 years of warranty, an extra, I think, 36,000 miles, which is great. Is that going to cover over to Toyota? Is Toyota going to do the same thing? Hey, you know what? We're going to honor you another, 5 years, 50,000 miles, something like that. Are they going to do anything special or specific that's going to make people feel at ease with buying one of these expensive trucks again, or trusting the one that they just got the motor swapped? Because I remember during the whole Hyundai thing, people literally would go put a new motor in it and then turn around and sell it. And a lot of the Hyundai dealerships were literally buying them while they were in service bays because people didn't want to wait that long for the cars. So is something like that going to happen? Another thing that may affect you is the fact that when Hyundai had all those recalls and they had to replace 30,000 motors, it took a lot of them up to a year to get their car replaced. And by then they were already suing and threatening to take Hyundai and Kia to court. And what they did is a lot of manufacturers started buying back the cars from the owners. If you guys remember the diesel debacle with Volkswagen, same thing. People didn't want to wait for the new motors or the recall. They were able to basically get their car bought back from their manufacturer. So I wonder if Toyota is going to do the same thing, where if you don't want to wait for a new motor and The line is really long. Will they actually buy that car back from you? These are some interesting things that I don't see anybody else on YouTube talking about, how this is going to actually affect the value of their car and how Toyota's brand is going to be affected by this. I'm sure they're probably going to wind up buying a lot of them if they got to wait, 6 months to a year for a new motor, but it's definitely something interesting. So unfortunately, recalls don't play favorites. It hits every manufacturer, whether it's American, Korean, Japanese, German, it doesn't matter. Every manufacturer's basically gets hit by recalls. So I always hate it when I see people in the comment section like, don't buy this, it's crap, or don't buy this, it's crap. American cars suck. I hear that all the time, which is fine. There's a lot of junk ones out there because they use cheap plastic. But if you look up the last, I think it was like 20 of the largest recalls in the last 4 years. Believe it or not, American cars, I think, were only about 10% of those. Most of those were Japanese cars, Korean cars, and German cars. So it's very interesting if you guys want to deep dive and look into that. And that's not even touching EVs. EVs just an absolute complete nightmare. I heard some more recalls that are coming down for some of these Rivians and Lucid Airs and stuff like that they're going to have some major issues with. But we'll have to see how that goes because they can't absorb millions of dollars of loss like Toyota can. So it's very interesting to see if any of these manufacturers are going to step up to the plate. But I would love to know your opinions of what do you think about Toyota actually saying we're going to go ahead and replace the motors, we're going to take care of our customers. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think that motor should have never left the factory? What kind of warranty do you think they're going to put in place after they install these new motors? Leave all that in the comment section below. And once again, I'll have a link to all the recalls down below as well as NHTSA so you can check to see if your car is open for the recall. And even if you don't have a Toyota, put your VIN number in there anyways, just to see what kind of basically recalls you have, because you may wind up getting some free work that you don't even know about. But I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next video.